Greg Orloff, and we are here at 2025's Hannover Messe, and I'm joined this afternoon by Helena Jochberger, and she is the Vice President of Global Manufacturing at CGI. Welcome, Helena.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon to all of you.
Now, thanks for joining us. So maybe we kick things off with a little conversation about your perspective on what are the best ways to integrate generative AI into a manufacturing operation?
Great question. And I would say manufacturing is not very new to the topic of AI, because especially with all the topics around robot process automation and with the framework from ISA 95, which is basically an automatization framework, we started already 1995 with all things automation. So we are in 2025, literally 30 years from now. But of course, things have changed over the course of the years. All the enabling technology speeded up, like IoT, networking, and so forth, that made that really possible. And moving on from RPA, I think we saw over the course of year, RPA was more task-performed automation. Then we were moving more into the generative AI, which is prompt-based automation. And if you would ask me what's next, of course, all the things around agentic AI, which is goal-oriented automation, that is a nice evolution, I would say.
Maybe we talk about the data a little bit.
Yes.
That's what has to feed the AI systems, right? Otherwise, they don't do a whole lot for us. How is that rapidly expanding amount of data that's being generated changed manufacturing, an industry 5.0 or 4.0 from that perspective?
Yeah. That is excellent, and I always say that data is the little brother of AI. Without proper data strategy, without proper data governance, you will not reach the outcomes that you're expecting coming from AI, right? So we always say the foundation is really something that you need to get clear with your data. The integration of the systems, all the things around digital continuity, what we are talking since years or even decades, to integrate your ERP with your MES system and even with the after-sales tools to have that continuous flow, that is really important. And then, of course, the data is needed for the different use cases in AI. So it's different data if you're in an R&D process and different data if you're in the supply chain or in an after-sales.
Fantastic. Well, I know you folks do a ton of work in the manufacturing environment and also the R&D perspective on that. Can you share any either case studies or examples for us, possibly?
Sure. I mean, let's start at the very beginning, right? And take a use case of generative AI. When you look into the research and development, especially with complex systems like ships or aircrafts or whatever, you have a long life cycle. And of course, the development cycles are huge. And I think generative AI in particular is a great tool to reduce these product development cycles. Also, if you plug in, for example, a large language model into your internal knowledge database to speed up the ticketing processes between the design and between the actual building of a part.
Interesting. So what is CGI doing to help secure supply chains and also ensure their resilience? Are you folks working in that area as well?
We work a lot in supply chain, and maybe two answers to that angle. So I think the one thing around the supply chains is the data transparency that you need. Another angle is, of course, to do the risk mitigation. Where are my suppliers in the process? How can we exchange data in a real-time format? And then also, as a third angle, maybe the work in collaborative ecosystems, where you share a common data standard in order to allow this real-time, data participation. And it's always a data sovereignty. You can always decide what kind of data you share. But as an OEM, for example, from an automotive perspective, if we take that example, it's always great if you have the suppliers sharing the data and vice versa. So in case you have an increased need in your production, that they can react really nearly real time.
So I know we've seen a lot of examples here at Hannover Messe this week of words being integrated in some of the evolutionary aspects of that. I'm going to ask you to take out your crystal ball for a minute. How do you envision the manufacturing environment 3 to 5 years down the road with these next generations of AI coming on board?
Yeah.
What does that floor look like to you?
Yeah, and it's great to think also in the future and even 50 years in advance.
Sure,
how will the factory look in decades ago? But I think once we have done all of that homework, and that will for sure take the rest of this decade, but then once we have done all the integration, once we have implemented a data-driven enterprise, if you want so, I think we are moving towards really a sensing factory, where you have end-to-end digitization and intelligent digitization of our processes so that they can interact, loop back in real time. I think that would be a scenario that I like, yeah.
Indeed, indeed. Well, maybe take the opposite perspective for a moment then. Any lessons we can learn from a philosophical standpoint from the past?
Oh, yeah.
That are maybe not being pulled in or maybe are being leveraged in different examples?
I think when we are talking about AI specifically, of course it's important to really implement it in a responsible way. Yeah. So having this responsible use of an AI in a framework, doing really the assessment of the risks that are attached to it, the integration of the ethical principles, and collaboration and awareness, because we all know it should be human-centric, right? All of we do.
Sure.
So the technology is not the ultimate goal. It's always the question, what's the ultimate goal we want to achieve?
Indeed, it's a tool, right?
Exactly, it's a tool. It's a tool.
Well, thank you for the insight and thanks for sharing with us.
Thank you so much.